Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. We're back with another weekend recap. I guess we'll jump into it right now. We got a lot right. Just giving a little spoiler alert. We had a very strong week. I've been chasing Blake in the standings, and unfortunately for me, he was one game better. But let's get through this. Baltimore and Houston, they end up splitting a four-game set. Texas and Cleveland. Cleveland took two of three. My Angels versus your Toronto Blue Jays. The Blue Jays sweep the Angels. It's good for me because we are on that first pick tank watch. So let's hope for that. Detroit and Chicago. Detroit ends up sweeping the White Sox. No surprise there, to be honest with you.
Mhm.
Cincinnati and Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh took three of four. Washington and Atlanta. Atlanta took two of three. Michael Harris did get hit in the wrist, so I mean they're already out. Albies. Acuna, Riley. We'll see what happens with Harris now. Mets in San Diego, they end up splitting walk-off homer today by Jackson Merrill. He's having a great year.
Mhm.
San Francisco and Seattle. Seattle ends up taking two of three. They came back to win some of those games. Tampa and LA. LA took two of three. Philly and KC. Philly took two of three there. St. Louis and Minnesota. St. Louis took two of three there. Milwaukee and Oakland. Milwaukee takes two of three. No surprise. Arizona and Boston. Arizona sweeps the Boston Red Sox. This could be a back-breaking series for the Red Sox.
Yep.
We shall see. And lastly, Colorado and New York. The Yankees, big day today to take the series. Stanton, Judge, Soto, all going back to back to back. On the week, I went 10-3-2, while Blake went 11-2-2. So, very strong week by us.
Yep.
Unfortunately for me, I still lost a game in the standings, but you know what? I even said on the last video, did not want to take the Angels against the Jays.
Yep.
They are terrible right now. It's just more so, you know what? I gotta stick to my guns. That's my team. That's your team. So let's do it.
Yep.
And they got you two series wins this year. They won seven games, all seven games this year. So,
Yep.
um, nonetheless, though, great week from us.
Yep.
Any of these series stand out to you?
I watched the tail end of that Seattle San Fran finale. That was a big comeback by Seattle. Obviously, their playoff hopes are hanging in the balance. I actually saw Jackson Merrill's walk-off home run live. He's been a pretty clutch hitter. They were saying on the broadcast that he leads the MLB with five home runs, five game tying home runs or go ahead home runs in the ninth inning. So today he hit his sixth. He's up to 19 homers. That rookie of the year race is coming down to the wire with him and Paul Skeens. Um, obviously saw Otani hit his 40th homer to have a 40-40 season. That was cool to see live. And caught a little bit of the Arizona Boston series. That was a surprising sweep. I didn't see that coming. I picked Boston to win I picked Arizona to win, but I didn't think it'd be a sweep. So, yeah, pretty exciting weekend of baseball for sure.
Yep, absolutely. Well, let's jump into this upcoming week. We're coming to the end of August here, and we're almost to September. But starting off, we have the Toronto Blue Jays taking on the Red Sox. It's going to be the rare five-game series. Because of a rainout earlier in the year, this is the game that Danny Jansen is going to be able to catch the Red Sox and started the game all the way back in whatever month it was as a Blue Jay.
Yep.
Traded at the deadline, so he's going to be the first player ever to play in the same game for both teams. So
Yep.
interesting there. It'll be to be determined versus to be determined in that one. And then the regular series, as it was expected, it'll be Berrios versus Pavetta, Rodriguez versus Criswell, Bassett versus Bayo, and Francis versus Crawford. This is the Blue Jays ALDS right here. This is their five-game set. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and take the Red Sox. They did just get swept, while Toronto it does have a little bit more of a high, but the Red Sox have taken care of business against the Blue Jays for the most part this year.
Yep.
And the Red Sox need to be a lesser of a team as the Blue Jays have been. I mean, obviously they will have to deal with Bassett and Barrios. And then Bowden Francis has been unreal of late, almost threw a no-hitter this weekend, but
Yep.
um yeah, the Red Sox need to go, and I think they know that. So we'll see. This is definitely going to be an interesting series, but I'm going to go ahead and go with the Red Sox there at home as well.
Yeah. I'm gonna take the Jays here. They've been hitting the long ball a lot. The kids are hitting a long ball too. Obviously, um, 7 of those games that they've hit a lot of home runs have come against the Angels pitching. So take that however you want. But it's nice to see these kids performing. And actually, just to tie a bow on that Danny Jansen um, story there, when the game actually got rained out, he was actually at bat. So that's just another kind of interesting twist. But tomorrow, I would suspect that Ryan Yarbrough pitches the bulk of tomorrow. I can't remember when it got rained out. I think it was in the second inning, if I remember it correctly. But
Is it
yeah,
no score?
yeah, I think it was 0-0. Yeah, 0-0 second inning. Yeah, Danny Jansen was up the bat. So like I said, they'll probably go an opener, both teams, and then Yarbrough will look at the bulk of that. So yeah, definitely interesting series. Red Sox and Royals both play double headers, and they're pretty close in that wild card standing. So Red Sox 4.5 out right now. So yeah, this is a huge series for them.
Yep. All right. Next up, we have the Royals taking on the Guardians. It'll be Reagans versus Sandlin, Marsh versus Allen, Lorenzen versus Williams, and Waka versus Bybee. Yeah, obviously Cleveland just took care of business with Texas, winning 2 of 3, while Kansas City lost 2 of 3 to Philly. So what does that put them? About 3 games back now.
Yeah.
So this could be, if Kansas City lights the world on fire this week, there's an opportunity to be in first place potentially,
Yeah.
depending what happens with the Twins. So. More than not, I would probably guess this is going to be a split.
Hmm.
But you never know. Get some breaks, win some close ball games. I mean, they do have Reagans going game 1, and Waka against Bassett game 4 will probably be the deciding factor. But
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and go with Cleveland. They've been the more consistent team. Kansas City is the more electrifying team, in my opinion. But I am going to go with Cleveland.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Kansas City. What a story this team's been all year, right? I mean, they finally were able to take that step, and Bobby Witch just kind of taken the team and kind of ran with it on his shoulders, right? And that the pitching's kind of the identity. I didn't think the starting pitching would be as good as it is all year, but obviously doubleheader, the first 2 games. So if one team wins both, I mean, most likely going to take the series. So yeah, it'll be interesting, but I will go with Kansas City.
Next up, we got Tampa taking on Seattle. It'll be Pepio versus Miller, Springs versus Gilbert, and TBD versus Castillo. Man, obviously the pitching is always going to line up for the Mariners, but I mean, it's just their offense is not very good. So,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with Tampa. They've been playing good baseball of late. Obviously, I do think that the Mariners pitching is better.
Mhm.
They match up against anybody, but Seattle just doesn't score runs. So, um, Tampa's hit or miss when it comes to scoring runs as well. But I am gonna go with the Rays.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Seattle. A couple late rallies to win that series against the Giants. Could take that and kind of run with some momentum with that one. They're still at home. Obviously, like you said, the offense hasn't been as good, but I will go with Seattle this one.
Next up, we have the Angels taking on Detroit. It'll be TBD versus TBD, TBD versus Montero, and Kahanowitz versus TBD. So, obviously, we don't know the pitching matchups, but if you guys have been watching Angels baseball for whatever reason, they've lost 13 of the past 16. So, I am going with the Tigers in this series. The young kids have still been doing their thing. Shanuel, Neto,
Hmm.
O'Hoppy's kind of been struggling, but. They just that the lineups they're putting out there, and I mean, it's no offense to this guy, but they have Carson Fulmer starting games for him. I mean, he's been
Yeah,
decent, but
yeah,
I mean, it's 2024, right? I
yeah,
mean, they at this point, I mean, Johnny Cueto just made a start for them, so I expect to see him in the series. So it
yeah,
is what it is. It seems like they are in full tank mode, which, as an Angels fan, usually they're not in that mode. So I'll take that. And then Detroit's been, playing well. Obviously, they just swept Chicago, and they're having a better year than the Angels. So I'm gonna go with the Tigers.
yeah. Obviously, I got to watch the Angels a lot the last couple weeks as they played the Jays. They got some good pieces like that Burke that they claimed off waivers there. He throws 98 from left side. He looked pretty good in the series against Jays. Got to watch him a lot. So, um, Yeah, the young kids are definitely playing better. Obviously, Shanuel banged up with a tight back right now, so that'll be interesting to see kind of if that is a long-term thing or just needs a breather for a couple games. But yeah, I'll go with Detroit. Like you said, if you're an Angels fan, gotta like the direction they're going. I mean, you're in the Ethan Holiday sweepstakes right now. You're trying to get that number one overall pick, and that would be franchise altering to get a guy like that. So yeah, that would be good.
All right. Next up, we have Texas taking on the White Sox. It'll be Heaney versus Crochet, TBD versus Flexen, and Eovaldi versus Bush. Um, wow. If we've ever seen the World Series hangover, it's with this
Oh yeah.
Rangers team, right? So very, very interested to see how they regroup next year through free agency or just in the trade market, whatever that is. Um, Obviously, they haven't had Scherzer most of the year. They haven't had DeGrom.
hmm
So those are factors, but you know, I would have expected the Rangers to be at least in the wild
Over
card race.
500. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's been a tough, tough year. I mean, I know Josh Young's been banged up this year and things like that, but I mean, a lot of their guys have been playing. So, whether it be Seager, Semien, Garcia, there's a nucleus there, and it just hasn't been getting it done. So, I am gonna go ahead and take Texas in the series because they are playing the White Sox, who just clinched their 100th loss of the season already. They are 31 and 100. I'm hoping that they are the worst team in MLB history. I'll be watching that as that approaches. Just more so, no offense, White Sox fan. I just want to see some history. So,
Yep.
um, yeah, I'm gonna take Texas in the series, but man, that's been a tough year.
Yeah. There's six teams with a minus run differential, and Texas is one of them. Didn't see that coming. They're just not scoring enough runs. Their pitching's been it's been okay, right? Obviously, they traded a guy like the Lorenzen at the deadline. They kind of sold some pieces at that deadline, but yeah, I'm gonna go Texas here. Obviously, White Sox are an absolute disaster. They're let's see, 44 and a half games back to the division. What do you think that number is going to be at the end of the year?
51.
51. All right. Interesting because it's historically bad.
Yeah. Well, next up we have the Cubs taking on the Pirates. It'll be Tyon versus Keller, Steele versus TBD, and Hendricks versus Skeens. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and go with the Cubs in this series. The Pirates have kind of fallen off the rails of late. They just put Michael A. Taylor on outright waivers, so anybody can claim him. Team that's gonna make the
Only
playoffs.
making $1 million too.
Yeah, I thought the Pirates were going to potentially make a big push. Obviously, we haven't seen Jared Jones at
Yeah.
all in the second half, so I think that's kind of hurt their pitching a little bit. But I am gonna go with the Cubs in this series. They do have Steele going and Tyon, and I feel good about that. Though Hendricks versus Skeens looks like a real lopsided victory there for the Pirates, but we shall see.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Pittsburgh here. It's been a disappointing post All-Star break for them. They were knocking on the door, 3 games out of a wild card spot. Didn't really do as much as I thought they would at the deadline. They obviously picked up Brian De La Cruz to fortify that offense a little bit, but like you said, no Jared Jones. That definitely hurts. He was really good in the first half. And now all of a sudden they're 8 games out of a wild card spot and their season's probably over. So obviously tough finish to a pretty good first half of the season for Pittsburgh. Definitely something to build on going into next year for sure. But I will go with Pittsburgh in this one.
Next up, we have the Padres taking on the Cardinals. It'll be TBD versus Gibson, Cease versus Mikolas, Musgrove versus Palante, and King versus Gray. I am going to go with the Padres in this series. They've been really good, the past 30, 40 games.
Mm.
And the Cardinals have been better as well. So it is a 4-game set. Wouldn't be surprised if it's a split. These are one of those, Sonny Gray's going in this series. Can they find another way to win a game? I mean, it is Michael King going up against Sonny Gray though, so we'll see
Yeah.
what happens. Uh, all in all, though, I am going to go ahead and go with the Padres in this series. I think they're the just a more talented team.
Yeah. San Diego and Arizona have been the two of the best teams since the All-Star break. I think that San Diego will continue to roll. I wouldn't be surprised if this was sweep or pardon me, a split, but I will go with San Diego in this one. Obviously, Musgrove, Cease, and King going here. So I like my chances.
Yep. Next up, we have the Giants taking on the Milwaukee Brewers. It'll be Harrison versus Myers, Webb versus Peralta, and Birdsong versus Savali. Almost went with the Giants in this series just with Harrison and Webb going. But with what they did this past weekend against Seattle and blowing some games, and they just have been underwhelming. I mean, it just is what it is. They spent a lot of money. I've said this on another video before. They just spent a lot of money during the offseason. They trade away some pieces. Blake Snell finally got it going couple months into the season. But yeah, it's been a pretty disappointing year for the Giants, and I really don't know what their direction is going forward. They spent a lot of money, and they the farm is what it is, and there's not what are the pieces to trade there realistically. I mean, Mike Yastrzemski maybe. I don't know. Like there's nobody. Heliot Ramos, they're not going to trade. So there's not a lot to trade, and there's not and obviously there's nothing's really came up and been a great player for them so far. But they are missing some guys. Lee out for the year. We'll see what he's like for over a full year next year. But I am gonna go ahead and go with Milwaukee in this series. They've been the better team all year.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Milwaukee too. Obviously, wow, they're up to a 10-game lead in the division. That's crazy how far they've pulled away. Up to 75 wins on the year. That's pretty impressive. Obviously, hanging in there without Yelich. It's going to be interesting to see how that is come playoff time. See who steps up in that absence. But I'll go with Milwaukee too. San Fran, 5 games out of a playoff spot, so they're kind of still hanging in that wild card race, but definitely running out of time.
Yep. Next up, it'll be the Mets taking on the D-backs. It'll be Manaea versus Fott, Severino versus Rodriguez, and TBD versus Nelson. Like you said earlier, the D-backs have been one of the best teams in the entire league since the trade deadline and the
Mhm.
All-Star break. They just swept the Red Sox in Fenway. Pretty impressive. 3 Ws there. Some come from behind wins too. So I'm gonna go ahead and go with the D-backs in this series, and we'll see how that impacts the Mets.
Yeah, Mets 2.5 out of a wild card spot, so it's still hanging in there. Obviously, two really tough losses to San Diego, right? Obviously, they blew that one today. Arizona, like you said, Eugenio Suarez, a couple huge homers in that series at Fenway. Go ahead homers, I should say. I will go with Arizona here. Yeah, they're rolling on all cylinders right now. They're just mowing through everybody right now. So, look to see that moving forward.
Next up, we have the Miami Marlins taking on the Colorado Rockies. It'll be Cabrera versus TBD, Munoz versus Quantrill, Meyer versus Freeland, and Balazzo versus Blaylock. Both these teams are trying to get a top pick as well, just like my Halos. This time around, I am going to go ahead and go with Miami, though. Outside of their really bad first 50 games, they haven't been terrible. I mean, they're not good, right? But they've won some series in there. That's all I'm gonna say. And Colorado is just I'm just I don't even know their direction as well. The Colorado Rockies have felt like they've been in a rebuild for how many years now. So
Since 2007 when they went to the World Series.
no, no, no. I
I'm
mean
just kidding.
they had some playoff teams in there, but I mean the past couple of years have been pretty tough.
Yeah.
In Miami, they have some exciting young players, so I'm gonna go their way.
Yeah. This is a battle for second last in the majors. Rockies currently a game ahead of the Marlins, pardon me. I am going to go Colorado. They're at course and crazy shit happens at course. So I'll take my chances with the elevation this weekend or this week.
All right. Next up, we have the O's taking on the Dodgers. This might be a World Series preview. It'll be Cole Irvin versus Bueller, Burns versus Flaherty, and Pavich versus TBD. Oh man, the O's haven't been playing the best ball over the past 50 games. They're about 500. They do have Corbin Burns going in this series while Bueller's kind of struggled. Cole Irvin isn't anything to write home about though either this year. So I am going to go ahead and go with Baltimore. They probably are a little bit of an underdog in this series because it is in LA. Um, but I am going to go with the O's. Just more gut feeling more than anything. I mean, my head's saying the Dodgers, but I'm behind in the standings. I got to make some ground up somewhere.
Yeah, 100%. The way that the Dodgers lineup constructed, it looks like the damn Harlem Globetrotters. So Muncie's back swinging it right now. You had Edmund to that. Man, that big trade that the Baltimore Orioles made for Trevor Rogers, and he already got sent to AAA. I was stunned to see that. Obviously he hasn't been good since coming over to the Orioles, and they quickly chipped him to AAA. So for how much they gave up, Norby's hitting home runs for Miami right now, and Rogers is in AAA. So not a great look on the Orioles side. But they, like you said, been kind of an up and down roller coaster the last couple of weeks, even probably a month. I will go with the Dodgers in this one.
All right. Next up, we have the Braves taking on the Twins. It'll be Fried versus Ober, Schwallenbach versus Woods Richardson, and Sale versus Festa. I am going to go ahead and go with Atlanta in this series. It seems like they've been pulling some dubs, even though they're banged up right now. Um, though Minnesota really needs to win games if they're going to win this division. I mean, they're right there as well. So should be a pretty tight series here. But Fried and Sale, I'm feeling pretty good.
Yeah, Breed and sell. That's kind of what I based my decision on too. Obviously, you mentioned it off the top when we're doing the recap. Obviously, waiting the news on Michael Harris got hit in the hand. Um, yeah, they haven't caught a break all season long, it seems. So, Minnesota 3 games back of that division lead, and Atlanta's 6 games back. So, Atlanta still could do something there and catch the Phillies. Probably unlikely, but I'm gonna take Atlanta in this one.
Next up, we have the Houston Astros taking on the Philadelphia Phillies World Series rematch from a couple years ago. It'll be Blanco versus Wheeler, Verlander versus Nola, and Arrighetti versus Sanchez, excuse me. I'm gonna go ahead and go with Philly in this series. Wouldn't be surprised if Houston did take it.
Mhm.
But with Wheeler and Nola, Verlander's been off and on from the IL all year. I am gonna go with Houston. Sorry, I'm going with Philly. They are in the bank.
Yeah,
Um, and yeah, I just think they need to they just took 2 of 3 from Kansas City, who's a good team. They're going home now. Um, and they gotta go and secure this division the next couple of weeks so they can rest up for the playoffs.
yeah, I'm gonna go Philly too. Philly is one of the few teams that I wouldn't want to play in the playoffs. They are battle tested over the last few years. Obviously, they've fallen short in the World Series. They've been to a couple NLCSs. Yeah, this team is knocking on the door. They've been one of the best teams all year long, and I'm really pulling for them to have a deep playoff run and hopefully Bryce Harper gets his first World Series. So that would be awesome to see.
Next up, we have the Oakland A's taking on the Cincinnati Reds. It'll be Spence versus TBD, Vito versus Lodolo, and Sears versus TBD. I'm going to go ahead and go with Cincinnati. Um, they haven't been great of late, but they keep, winning a couple, losing a couple, win a couple, lose a couple. So they are in Cincinnati. Ball flies there. Again, I'm just solely basing it off of star power. Spencer Steer there, Ellie De La Cruz. There's pieces there. While you look at Oakland, it's kind of like Brent Rooker, maybe you go Lawrence Butler, but the pieces aren't as in place there. So I am gonna go with Cincinnati in this series. Plus they got Lodolo on the mound.
Yeah, Ellie De La Cruz is worth the price of admission on his own, right? He's electric to watch, steals almost every time he's on base. He's electric to watch, and yeah, I'll go with Cincinnati in this one.
And lastly, we have the Yankees taking on the Washington Nationals. It'll be Cortez versus Parker, Cole versus Corbin, and Rodon versus Gore. In addition, it will be Dylan Cruz's MLB debut tomorrow.
Yep.
Very cool, taking on the Yankees. With that said, I am going to go with the Yanks. They just took 203 from Colorado. They're a team that they're gonna go as far as Aaron Judge brings them. It feels like we'll see what Juan Soto is in the playoffs. He usually turns it on in the playoffs, so that might be the difference maker once they get there. But Aaron Judge is going off right now, 51 homers, and we still have 6 weeks to play. So at least 40 games to play. So with that said, I am going to go ahead and take the Yankees. Obviously, they're a much more talented team than that. Um, but I'm excited to see what this Yankees team is like heading into the playoffs.
Yeah, 100%. And Baltimore still nipping at their heels, a game and a half back of that division. So obviously, still lots to play for the Yankees. But yeah, Aaron Judge on pace to break his own AL home run record at 62. He's on pace for 63 homers. We were talking off the record yesterday, wondering how many RBIs Judge can get. He's at about 124, I believe, right now. So it'd be interesting to see kind of where he goes. He's definitely going to hit 60 plus for sure. It'll be interesting to see if he can break that record.
Yep. All right. That's going to do it for this one. In review, I have Boston, Cleveland, Tampa, Detroit, Texas, Chicago, San Diego, Milwaukee, Arizona, Miami, Baltimore, Atlanta, Philly, Cincinnati, and New York. While Blake has Toronto, Kansas City, Seattle, Detroit, Texas, Pittsburgh, San Diego, Milwaukee, Arizona, Colorado, LA, Atlanta, Philly, Cincinnati, and New York. Yeah, I mean, we're climbing on the subs right now.
Yep.
I think we're what? We're close to 1,500 or
Over
about
1,500 now.
over 1,500 now. It's
Yep.
great.
Yep.
We've grown tremendously just since we've relaunched this channel this year. I think what we're up, about 12 to 1,300 subs.
Mhm.
Obviously, my goal for this by the end of the year would be 5,000 subs. That's our yearly goal. But we just gotta keep pushing. We're gonna be having, different types of content coming out. But yeah, that's gonna do it for this one. And as always, we appreciate you guys for listening, and we'll see you on the next one. Later.